Dear students, in this video we are going to see identification and classification of microorganisms. So identification is nothing but comparing similarities and differences with already known ones. You know something that a particular group have some similarities and some differences. By it you could able to identify whether a particular organism related to that particular group or not. That is what is called identification. And another one is going to be classification. So what is classification? Grouping of organisms into categories based on observable characters. For example, I am going to take a simple example. For example, you can take human beings. All the human beings have the same properties, same physical appearance and other properties. That is what they are all grouped into single species. That is what grouping is. And later you can take any organism of the similar characters and you can group them on. And this is what is called classification. Once you classify and you make different groups, and a species, that is, we do not know, a species come out of somewhere, and if you want to identify that particular organism belongs to which group, then how can you do that one? You could do that one by similarities and differences of the characters. By that you could able to identify that organism. That is called identification. So classification and identification both are very important in identifying the microorganism. And let us move on to the another point, that is going to be the another one. Microbiology is a branch of science, deals with the study of microscopic form of life. Microscopic form. What is this microscopic form? The organisms which you could not able to see with your naked eye. Those are called micro forms of life. These micro forms of life are nothing but are also called as microorganisms. Biology is a branch of science that deals with the study of microorganisms. Now another point, these microorganisms are present everywhere in the sense it can be found in air and it can be in water, soil, surface of plants and animals, human beings. Not only on the surface, they are also present inside the body as well. So they are present everywhere in the nature, omnipresent. They are present everywhere. And another point, the branch of microbiology is concerned with the study of microorganisms. What? It study microorganisms structure. And another one is classification. The classification is nothing but what is that? Based on observable characters we could group them, and microorganisms also group. Distribution in nature, and that means whether they are present in water, where they are present in soil, where actually they are present. This kind of distribution knowing is very important, because some organisms are pathogenic in nature, so we should avoid them. We could able to know that one by where it is living. That is what distribution of nature is helpful to us. And another one is its reproduction. What is that reproduction? Reproduction means how they are multiplying their species, how they are doubling their species, how offsprings are producing by the microorganism. It may be a sexual or asexual kind of thing may be present. That is also be observed in the studied by the microbiology. And later metabolism. So what is metabolism? Metabolism is, all the sum of reactions in a particular organism is said to be its metabolism. Chemical reactions and pathways is being studied under this microbiology. And later influence on nature. Being present a microorganism, is it helpful or destructive in nature? So we will study how it is helpful to us, how it is destructive. That is all we will study in the microbiology. That is what we have seen, a microorganism and its characters. So microorganism, we have already seen this point. Microorganism is present everywhere in nature. So the microorganisms always less than 0.1 millimeter in size, so that you could not able to see that one. That is what he is explaining here. Microorganisms are not visible to our naked eye. We require a microscope. Generally we use a compound microscope for its visibility. So they are called microscopic forms of life. These microscopic forms of life are studied by the microbiology. A microbe may be multicellular or unicellular in nature. Multicellular means what? If an organism is made up of more number of cells, if an organism is made up of more number of cells, then that particular organism is said to be multicellular. So if an organism having only a single cell, then it is called unicellular. So microorganisms may be multicellular or it may be unicellular. And another point is they may be prokaryote and they may be eukaryote. Prokaryotic organism, when you observe its DNA, the DNA do not cover with any nuclear membrane, it is naked. But when you observe a eukaryotic organism, you know, the nucleus, the DNA is surrounded by nuclear membrane. That is what we have seen. That is the difference between both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. There are several other differences as well, but this is a fundamental difference that will be discussed later. And next one is going to be the organisms may be motile, or sometimes it may not be. They are non-motile. Motile in the sense, if an organism move from one place to another place, those organisms are said to be motile. And organisms do not move from one place to another place, it is said to be non-motile. And another one is going to be they may be aerobic or they may be anaerobic. Aerobic may be organisms if require oxygen. If require oxygen in order to survive, they are called aerobic, and if they do not require any oxygen, they may be anaerobic. So this microorganism, first it is classified into 5 major categories. One is bacteria, that is what we have seen, and algae, fungi, protozoa, and viruses. And later here you could see fungi is again divided. Fungi is again divided into yeast and molds. Why? Because you know, yeast is a single cellular organism, whereas mold is a multicellular organism. When you see a fungi, the fungi may be unicellular or multicellular in nature. Unicellular means they may be made up of one cell, or it may be made up of several cells, and they are eukaryotic in nature. That is important. Eukaryote in the sense their nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. So another one, they may be autotrophic or heterotrophic in nature. Autotrophic means what? Autotrophic means they could able to generate their own food, or sometimes some organisms are there. There are some organisms there that can able to synthesize their own food, that is autotrophic. Sometimes they may be heterotrophic in the sense. Heterotrophic means they cannot able to synthesize their own food. Their food may be acquired from somewhere else. That is heterotrophic in nature. And later, unicellular cells are yeasts, and multicellular cells are molds. That is what we have already seen. Unicellular means if they are made up of single cells, they are called yeast cells, and multicellular cells are there, they are called molds. And then they may be saprophytic or parasitic. Saprophytic in the sense what? So these fungi acquire their food from dead organisms, then it is said to be saprophytic. They may be parasitic. Parasitic means what? These organisms may live inside another organism for food. This may be parasitic in nature. And sometimes these fungi may be septated or non-separated. Once this is one cell and this is another cell, each cell having what? Each cell having its own nucleus. Here also you could see nucleus, each cell. Of course it is multicellular organism, but each cell is separate from other, each cell having its own nucleus. And both cells are divided by a septum. But here you could see non-septal hyphae. Here in non-septal hyphae, where you could see there is no septa that differentiate one cell to another cell, so nucleus flows here to this. See, these nucleus are free, they can move here to there. This is called non-septated hyphae. So to be spores of the fungi are fungus are present in soil, air, water and dust. Some of the examples of the fungus are mucor and aspergillus. Some of the examples of this fungi. Later we move on to see what is that one, bacteria. Bacteria, you know, it is only these are only unicellular. Uni means bacteria made up of single cell, and they are prokaryote, and if you observe their DNA, it won't be surrounded any nuclear membrane, and they may be present in three different shapes, like, you know, cocci, rod shape and spiral shape. Let me explain this one with a simple diagram. Here I could see you, this is going to be rod shape, here bacillus, spherical shape, that is pear shape, that is coccus, and spiral shape, that is spiral. So these are three different shapes of bacteria you could able to see, observe here, and so may be present cocci, rod shape, bacillus and spiral shape. And bacteria may be motile or non-motile. They may be moved, they cannot move. They have a defined cell wall. Defined cell wall in the sense they should have a cell wall. And these bacteria are classified into two groups. One is called gram-positive, another one is gram-negative bacteria. The bacteria may be autotrophic, or sometimes they may be heterotrophic. Autotrophic means if they acquire their own food, it is called autotrophic. If they survive food acquiring from other sources, they are heterotrophic. And another important thing is that some bacteria are pathogenic in nature. Pathogenic means they causes diseases for plants or animals, organisms. Pathogen, the properties of protozoa and algae. Let us see that one. The first one we are going to see is protozoa. This is going to be unicellular, and they are eukaryotic in nature, maybe parasitic or saprophytic. Range size of the organism may be 10 to 50 millimeters. That may be much larger. They are aqueous in nature. That means aqueous in the sense they are present in water. And protozoa are motile in nature. Motile in the sense they move from one place to another place with the help of what is that one, flagella, cilia and pseudopodia. Cilia, this is the small hair-like structures. Can you remember what this one is like? This is what? This is going to be what is that one, paramecium. This is another one, amoeba, which could move by its pseudopodia. Pseudopodia means leg-like structures, pseudopodia. And last one is flagellum, euglena, where, you know, have you seen this one? This is the flagellum. With the help of these specialized organelles, they could able to move from one place to another place. They absorb, and another one is going to be they absorb food by cell membrane by mechanism called phagocytosis. This is the characteristic of protozoa. Some protozoa are also parasitic in nature, pathogenic in nature, and the mode of replication is asexual mode is there. Some of the examples are, we have seen them, amoeba, paramecium and euglena. These are the examples of that. Later we move on to the another one, that is algae. They may be unicellular, and multicellular, unicellular or multicellular, and they are also eukaryotic in nature. Size maybe ranges from 1 millimeter to several meters. You should remember this one, several meters. And they are autotrophic in nature, motile, some are non-motile, sexual or asexual mode of reproduction is there, and present in moist soil. Generally they are present in moist soil, aquatic environment. There some of the examples are chlorophyta, rhodophyta and xerophyta. And with that we completed 4 different groups of microorganisms. Let us move on to the 5th one, that is going to be a virus. A virus is a specialized one. A virus may be ultra microscopic, that is what I explained you. Ultra microscopic in the sense a normal microscope won't observe this kind of organism, so you need an electron microscope, and they require an electron microscope. They are obligate intracellular parasite. What is the meaning of obligate intracellular? So some bacteria may be present outside the cell, within the blood they may live, but in order to survive a virus, it requires compulsorily a cell. It should go inside the cell, then only it can survive. That is obligate intracellular parasite. And when you observe the size of the virus is 0.1 nanometer. Can you observe this one? 0.1 nanometer. Its genetic material is enclosed in a protein coat. So and it lacks cellular components. What are cellular components? So you might have seen in a plant cell or animal cell, you might have seen several in a bacteria, in several organelles like chloroplast, mitochondria, in bacteria mesosomes, so on and so forth. You have seen so many cellular components, but a virus do not have such type of any cellular components. It depends on host cell for its multiplication. It utilizes all the machinery of the host cell. So and its genetic material may be DNA or RNA. So recently the coronavirus have this RNA virus. Some of the viruses I'm going to give as an example: herpes virus, TMV, and then HIV. If you want to identify a particular microorganism, if you want to study a particular microorganism, the classical approach. What is the meaning of classical approach? Classical in the sense you could observe a microorganism by its morphological in the sense how it is appearing like. These are called morphological characteristics. And biochemical characters, how their pathways, what are the chemicals present in it. Likewise, you could be able to identify a microorganism. How by using some biochemical tests also you could be able to identify a microorganism. And later physiological characters, for example, how it is taking oxygen in, how it is digestion, how these kind of physiological processes are also taken into consideration for identify a particular microorganism. Later ecological in the sense where it is living, that is all ecological. Genetic in the sense its DNA, by its DNA and RNA we could be able to say these are all come under what? Classical approaches of microorganism. Let us see another approach by which we could be able to identify a microorganism, that is molecular approach, a potent tool. Nowadays we are mainly depending on this molecular approach. What is this molecular approach? Is number one is by nucleic acid composition. Nucleic acid composition is what? For example, if you take DNA used to have 4 nuclear ATGC, and how much A is there, how much T is there, what is its composition, so that if you could be able to identify a microorganism, that is nucleic acid composition, how much RNA is there, how much DNA is there, that is used for the identification of a microorganism. Later nucleic acid hybridization. So by hybridizing some probes, if you could be able to identify that particular microorganism, that is nucleic acid hybridization. And nucleic acid sequencing, nowadays this is very prominent. 16S rRNA sequencing is very important. We explained that one while Carl Lewis classification. Nucleic acid sequencing means the sequence of nucleotides like A, T, G, C. This is how the sequence is like there in the particular microorganism. That gives precise idea of a particular microorganism. So this kind of approach is called molecular approach. So you could able to identify precisely by these tools, and this is a potent tool as well. So with that we